Welcome to the deep dive. We're all about getting straight to the insights you can use.
Mhm.
Today, we're diving into an astrological forecast for April 24th, 2025. It comes from TarotScope via Tarot by High C.
Right. And it's interesting because it's focusing on the day's specific energies, but also, well, the end of a longer cycle, Venus conjunct Saturn.
Exactly. So, our mission, as always, is to post out the practical stuff for your day, without getting lost in too much jargon.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first up, the morning. Sounds like it could bring some pretty strong emotions, maybe a bit undirected.
Yeah, amplified is the word used. And there's a warning about like self-righteousness or maybe feeling a bit smug.
Ooh, okay. Definitely things to watch out for, and also maybe saying or doing too much. Information overload.
Exactly. Potentially more moralizing or judgmental vibes in the air, too. It's that kind of intense, maybe scattered start to the day.
Why do you think that is? That amplified state specifically in the morning?
Well, if you think about Venus relationships, values, and Saturn bringing tests, maybe this morning surge is the emotional froth on top of deeper stuff.
Deeper tensions?
Yeah, unresolved things, maybe. If you're feeling a bit shaky about where you stand, sometimes that comes out as being overly opinionated or, loud.
That makes sense.
Mm.
A bit outward display covering inner uncertainty.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So then the forecast says things shift as we move into the evening. The focus turns to relationships and values again, but with a more practical lens.
Right. It's like asking yourself, okay, these connections, these values I hold, do they actually line up with my long-term goals? More grounded.
What's driving that shift towards practicality, you think?
That sounds like Saturn's influence kicking in more constructively. Saturn brings that grounding energy. It
Right.
forces us to look past just the immediate desire that's Venus and think about structure, longevity.
Right. That does this actually work?
Yeah,
Question.
exactly. Aligning emotional investments with, well, real-world aims.
Then later tonight, it gets even more nuanced. A mix of responsibility and genuine connection. Kind of a bittersweet feeling, it says.
Yeah, but also a potential for finding some equilibrium, like finding the discipline for inner stability.
And the key seems to be making commitments based on authentic values, not just fleeting feelings. How does that mix work? Responsibility and connection.
That's the heart of the Venus-Saturn dynamic, isn't it? You feel the weight, the responsibility that's Saturn in your connections, Venus. But if those connections are real and aligned with what you need to build,
Then they create stability.
precisely, it's finding that sweet spot between what feels good and what's actually solid and lasting.
Okay, let's pull back to this whole Venus conjunct Saturn thing. The forecast calls it tough love.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
It suggests our dreams or relationships, they're all facing a kind of reality check. But the ones that hold up under pressure, they're the ones likely to stick around.
Yeah, and the key takeaway there isn't that challenges are bad. It's that they clarify what's genuinely strong.
So it weeds out the weak spots.
Sort of, it forces us to confront, unrealistic ideas or shaky foundations. Ultimately, what survives is more resilient.
The forecast also mentions potentially feeling a bit lonely or disconnected, questioning partnerships.
We're maybe even looking at spending habits. Finances are tied into.
Right. It stresses checking boundaries. Are we giving too much? Are partnerships balanced? Why those specific feelings?
Well, when Venus connection meets Saturn, limitation or structure, it can feel like a contraction, a pulling back in our social world.
Makes sense.
So naturally, you start assessing those boundaries. Are they too loose, too rigid? It's evaluation time for the give and take.
And the financial angle. Revisiting boundaries there, reinvesting in supportive people or projects, but not hyper-isolating.
Yeah, because how we use our resources, money, time, energy, reflects our values, Venus, and our sense of security and responsibilities, Saturn. So it's about making sure those align.
Don't cut off support while you figure things out.
Exactly. Don't withdraw completely, even as you reassess.
Now, here's a really crucial piece. This alignment on April 24th, it's not the first one. It's the third Venus-Saturn conjunction in this series.
Right. There were previous ones back in January and then again early April.
So Saturn's been sort of testing our core values, relationships, loyalties, finances for months now. What does this final alignment mean?
Think of it like a refining process over time. This third pass, this culmination on the 24th, suggests we might reach a point of decision.
Like the lessons learned from the earlier alignments finally crystallize.
Exactly. Things might become clearer, what needs to stay, what needs to go, what commitments need to be made. based on that longer period of testing.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener, April 24th, 2025. Sounds like a day potentially starting with some intense feelings, maybe some emotional static.
Definitely need to navigate that carefully.
But it shifts towards a real chance to apply practical thinking to your relationships, your values, grounding things.
And remembering this isn't just a one-day thing, it's the endpoint of a cycle that's been unfolding for months.
So decisions made around now could really matter long term.
Which leads to a good question for you to reflect on. Where in your life have you really felt those Saturn reality checks over the last few months? In relationships, finances, values?
And based on what's surfaced, what feels truly authentic, what commitments might you be ready to make or perhaps let go of?
Yeah. What feels solid moving forward?
Definitely some powerful food for thought there. This deep dive used insights from the astrological forecast by Textacole via Tarot by High C. Hope it gave you something useful to consider.
Thanks for tuning in.